Let's talk about escaping functions. We're going to be working with some characters that are going to allow us to add new lines, tabs, carriage returns, and things like that. And what happens when you escape your characters, you're doing what your word processor does, you're doing what Outlook does, your mail software does. When you send mail, for example, you deal with word wrap and getting to the next line, HTML as well. If you look at any text editor, what happens there is you see lines added and extended and moving down the page. When you hit an enter key, you're hitting a return, carriage return and line feed, and you're going to the next line. Well, you're adding that automatically with the editor that you're using. But you can add it specifically yourself in your pages, and this helps you to format your HTML. Because if you look down in the middle here, you see that we don't have a lot of lines here that go to the next line, but then you do see there are a bunch of extra lines here. And without hitting enter in my editor, I'm actually adding that using the symbol that you see here. The two symbols actually. Now we'll talk about that. What happens is when you try to put in a new line or carriage return, and these are ASCII characters. They're all ASCII characters. This would represent the 10th ASCII character, 13 for carriage return. Normally you put those two together. And if you're a VB programmer, for example, then you're very used to actually using those. Or even ASP, for example, you put them in a lot. Well, tab is important because you want to move to the right and tab your particular output to make it look very nicely. And when you want to represent the backslash, for example, you can't just put a backslash because then it thinks, the PHP interpreter thinks you're actually trying to escape something, so you have to put a double backslash. And we'll look at things like that. And the $sign. So you don't confuse that with the $sign for a variable, for example. If you want to take it literally, you would put a backslash there. Then PHP would know that an escape character should be coming next, and then it's going to look at which one is next, and then it's going to know what you were trying to do. Same thing with a double quote, if you need to do that. And you can also represent octal and hexadecimal numbers as well. And finally, you have this percent here as well. Sometimes you want to use the percent sign as an escape indicator, or you just want to use it as a percent. So you have to put the double percent, and that comes up sometimes in your travels. But let's look at some output, and you can see the output down here. We'll take a look at how this is formatted and the ways that I use to make sure everything looks very nice. You can see that this print on multi-lines with a single quote can format things depending on what we need to have formatted. But you can see that this is going to add some tabs there that we may not like. So if we look at the output here, and we'll actually get the output again, view source, slide down, and you can see that all those extra tabs are added. So you can use this approach, but you're going to get extra tabs that you might not know were going to be placed there. So another alternative, like I said, is to put new line characters in there. We have 3 tabs here, a new line character, and a new line character before this UL tag, unordered list. If we save that, refresh this, and then view the source again, you'll see that we actually eliminated this. And it's all flushed together there. That new line is no longer there. So you can control that, and you can make sure things are formatted very nicely. And those tabs do come in handy. We'll actually add a few tabs there. We've added 2 tabs there. And then we'll refresh and view source again. And you see it's almost to where it needs to be. One more tab is too much, so it's fine. You can also add spaces and things like that as you need to. But continuing, if we use the single quotes, because that was with double quotes, be aware that if you use single quotes, then you're actually going to take this literally, and it's going to print these out as you want them here. There's no escaping going to be done there. And if we look, you see that's quite messy, but it looks exactly the way we have it there. Single quotes, no escaping, and that's going to be the difference there. And last but not least, we have some extra information down here that you see is using that standard HTML escaping. And these are special characters actually that can be processed and taken to be straight HTML, meaning that this looks like this here, but the browser is going to render this as a less than sign and a greater than sign. So that's a BR tag, then the less than sign, BR tag, greater than, exactly as it needs to go across there. So that's going to use a special function called HTML special chars. You can look it up, and it's only going to process the ones that we mentioned here. And those include the ampersand, double quotes, which is going to get replaced with the answers here, and the single quote and less than or greater than. And you can see that this is what it gets translated to. So use that one as you need to. You can also use the HTML entities, which is going to replace any HTML character that can be changed over. And that way you can actually output some code there. You can be a little cryptic with your HTML, but it also prevents you from worrying about special tags getting in the way and quotes getting in the way and things like that. So it's very, very helpful for you. But that is escaping strings.